Good morning. Good morning. All right. I am going to take a little bit of your time and preach from the sermonic topic, dealing with giant dilemmas. Dealing with giant dilemmas. Before we get into that, I love this picture. It's just so appropriate. I'm just like, when I walked in, I was like, this is great. Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry. All right. When I became an elder in the Presbyterian Church, it was a specific process that you had to go through. And within this process, there was a committee that would ask different questions about your spiritual walk. And one question in particular that stuck out to me, even to this day, was the question, which character in the Bible do you most identify with? And I started thinking about all of the names in the Bible and all of the different characters and what they represented in the Bible. So I started to think about, do I identify with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Well, maybe Noah, Moses, and Joshua. And then I started to think, well, maybe Job, Jonah, or even Jesus. And as I thought about it, the one character that truly I could identify with was David. The king of Israel, the one who had the heart like God's. David was the one who danced for the Lord until his clothes fell off. David was the one who said, lift up your heads, all ye gates, and be ye lifted up. And David was the one who said, I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praise shall continuously be in my mouth. My soul makes her boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. And so as I thought about David, David had his ups and David had his downs, so I could really identify with that, because sometimes I feel like I've had my ups and sometimes I've had my downs. And see, David was excellent with dealing with giant dilemmas. No matter how big or how small, we'll all have to deal with dilemmas in our life. We can't avoid them, and we can't get around them. So we might as well deal with them, because it's a part of life. And it's weird, because it seems like once we finish one dilemma, there's another one waiting around the corner. And so, my mother works in conflict mediation in the DC public school systems. And she taught me that conflict is a part of life. It's going to happen. And so people usually default to two different things when it comes to conflict. Most people either default to fight or flight. Now, you can always tell somebody who is a fighter when it comes to conflict, because they're always attracted to conflict. Do you know anybody who's always fighting some type of something, like they're always involved in something, and it just seems like they can't have any sense of peace? That will be somebody who is a fighter. And so when we look at somebody who takes a flight during conflict, that would be somebody who, when something is happening, you can't find the person. Like they're nowhere to be found when it comes to conflict. So when we look at the text for this morning, we can see that David is a fighter when it comes to conflict. When other people were afraid of their problems, David fought. When other people could not face their dilemmas, David fought. See, David fought for his family, David fought for his people, and David fought for the Lord. But these weren't just any types of regular battles. These were giant battles. And sometimes in life, we have to deal with giant battles and giant dilemmas. And these can be anything from a physical issue to a psychological issue. They can be anything from family issues or relationship issues or personal issues or financial issues. And they always seem larger than life. But in the text for this morning, David is facing a giant dilemma, and there's some points of power that we can learn from David's story this morning. And the first point is that when it comes to dealing with giant dilemmas, David is saying, don't be afraid to face your dilemma. In verse 32, David says, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. You see, David is saying, don't lose heart because of the situation that you're going through. And don't be afraid to face this. Matter of fact, if you don't face your dilemma in life, your dilemma will come to you. It will knock on your door, come in your house, sit on your couch, and watch TV with you. We cannot get away from our dilemmas. Matter of fact, when we look at the text, Goliath would come to the Israelites twice a day for 40 days. He would come in their face and say, I'm here. You can't get away from me. You can't avoid me. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Our problems won't give us the easy way out. And just, if we don't deal with it, just go away. Our problems don't do that. Our problems will come back in our face. So what David is saying, we should not be afraid to face them. And the only way that our dilemmas will leave is when we face our problems. And so the first thing that David wants us to do is to not be afraid to face our dilemma. The second thing that David is trying to tell us is to be the person that God made you to be. After Saul allowed David, who was a teenager at the time, do what grown men in his army could not do, he tried to give David the equipment that Saul thought that he needed to do this task. In verse 38 and 39, it says that then Saul dressed David in his own tunic, and he put on the coat of armor on him, and he put on a bronze helmet on his head, and David fastened on his sword over the tunic, and he tried to walk around because he wasn't used to him, and he said, I can't go in this. And he said to Saul, because I am not used to it. And so the Bible says that he took them off. Now David is saying, if I'm going to face the giants in my life, I have to be me. I can't be anybody except for me. See, God did not make a mistake when he made you. He knew exactly what gifts you needed, what talents and what personality you need to face the problems and dilemmas in your life. And so the thing is, the Bible says that David took off the armor. But I tend to think that one of the problems that we go through in life is that we spend too much time trying to put on the armor of other people. We spend too much time trying to live out the expectations that other people have on us. We should look like this. We should sound like this. We should be doing this type of job. And these are the expectations and the armor that everybody else wants us to wear, when David is saying, all I have to do in life is be myself. All I have to do, if I'm going to put on armor, all I need to do is put on the total armor of God, put on the helmet of salvation and the breastplate of righteousness. I don't need others' expectations to put on me and weight me down. See, the thing about it is David put on Saul's armor, but it was too heavy for him, because these were expectations that he said, you can't do it by yourself. You need to do it the way I think you should do it. But David says, I have to do it my way, because God has blessed me and given me talents that are unique to me. And if I have this problem, God already knew before the foundations of the world that I would have this problem. So he's already equipped me with what I need. See, David picked up his staff, and he picked up these stones and a sling. And see, the thing about it, when I read this, God really gave David more than he needed. You see, David only needed one stone to defeat Goliath, but he had 5. And so, we were talking about this last week in Bible study, like, why did he take 5 stones? If he was going to only use one, I think that, and as I started reading this text a little bit more, see, the Bible says that David knew that Goliath had 4 brothers. Okay, Goliath. So, in order to defeat his current problem and what is potentially some more problems, he took 5 stones. So what this is saying to me is that God is a proactive God. So God will give us provisions for our right now situations and our not yet problems. See, God has equipped us My God. God has equipped us with things that we're going through right now. And he said that I'm giving you a little bit extra for the things that are coming around the corner. And I'm so glad this morning that God is able to do that. God is able to bless us exceedingly and abundantly more than what we need right now, because he's saying that, you know, life doesn't stop once you get through this dilemma. There's something else coming down the line. And so I want to equip you so you're not frustrated when you go through that problem. And so God is able to give us provisions for right now and for the not yet. And I'm just so glad this morning that, you know, God has already prepared us for that. And so the third and last point of power when we're dealing with giant dilemmas is you need to take the right tools for the job. You need to take the right tools for the job. And I know what you may be thinking right now. You might be thinking, well, Brian, you just said that God has given me everything I need to go forward. Why would you say, what do you mean by take the right tools for the job? I'm glad you asked. See, in verse 45, David said to the Philistine, you come against me with a sword, with a spear, and a javelin. But I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defiled. See, David didn't mention his staff. See, David didn't mention his stones or his sling, because the only thing that was worth mentioning is that he was coming in the name of God. See, when you are approaching your problem, when you are coming against your giant dilemma, the only thing that's truly important, the right tool, is having God with you. See, when we have God with us, we understand that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And from the outside looking in, from the worldly perspective, if we look at this, there's no way that David should have won this battle. You know, the Bible says that Goliath was 9 feet tall, and he was trained to fight since the day of his birth. Now, you know, that's a pretty big problem. And so he struck fear in the entire army of the Israelites. There's no way that David should have won. David was a teenager who was a shepherd, and the Bible says he was short and ruddy. And so the thing is, like, how can somebody who's short and ruddy and just a teenager defeat this 9-foot giant? And there's no way that this should have happened. But the difference in this whole equation is that Goliath came with weapons that were made by man, and David